Hello and good morning. My name is Maurice Altar. I head the Marketing Communications Group of VST-ECS. Thank you for logging in today. Will be another learning opportunity as we will discuss how you can benefit from Alibaba Cloud solutions and technologies. Even before the pandemic, cloud technology was already transforming how companies engage with employees, interact with customers, deliver services, and manage supply chains. If there is a silver lining brought about by this health crisis, it would be the exodus to the cloud, and undoubtedly adoption of cloud technologies continue to increase at an accelerated pace. Because of the uncertainty of the times and the likely realities of the new normal, more and more organizations are now laying their journeys toward cloud computing and digital transformation. According to Gartner, worldwide public cloud spending is forecast to rise 18.4% this year to total $304.9 billion. Subsequent survey data indicated that 70% of organizations plan to increase their cloud spending in the wake of the disruption caused by this pandemic. IDC also expects spending on cloud IT infrastructure to grow at an annual rate of 10.4%, reaching $109.3 billion in 2024 and accounting for 63.6% of total IT infrastructure spent. So with this positive outlook, we are confident that today's exercise will allow us to further expedite our plans to embrace cloud technologies or perhaps augment your current adoption. So let's continue and proceed with the presentation. Allow me first to acknowledge Sir Jimmy Go, the President and CEO of VST-ECS, for the welcome address. Good morning, Sir Jimmy.
Good morning. Okay, good morning, everyone. Well, first of all, thank you for attending to this Alibaba Cloud Solution presentation. I hope that you're all excited to learn on how Alibaba Cloud could help you in your journey to the cloud. Okay, but first of all, let me introduce VST-ECS. Okay, VST-ECS is the leading ICT distributor in the country. We do represent almost all of the big brands on server, storage, networking, software, hyperconverged infrastructure, and cloud. Okay, so today we're going to present to you the Alibaba Cloud solution. Okay, during this pandemic, we all know that IT is the main differentiator on the journey on our digital transformation. And Alibaba Cloud is actually the #1 cloud provider in China, and they are the #3 global or worldwide cloud provider. Okay, so today we'll show you that Alibaba Cloud do offer many kinds of solution by industry. They offer solutions for the retail, for the financial, for the ISV, for the media, and also for the gaming and many other industry. So I hope that today you'll really learn and appreciate the knowledge that probably Alibaba could share to everybody on how we can proceed with our journey to the cloud. Okay, again, thank you very much for joining.
In a world where technologies provide the impetus for business survival, digital transformation is no longer a choice. One company that drives innovation is VST-ECS Philippines Incorporated. Discover our passion. This is what drives us to continue to partner with the best and innovative brands in the ICT industry. Through the years, VST-ECS has evolved to become an IT distribution powerhouse, offering an extensive breadth of solutions for retail, commercial, and enterprise markets. From our humble beginnings, we have embraced the shifts in technologies and economies to bring the best brands to our channel partners. VST-ECS Philippines Incorporated, a member of the VST-ECS Group. We are the leading ICT distributor in the country. We offer choices to help you grow, transform, and thrive in the new economy. Notebooks, consumer and commercial. Desktops, consumer and commercial. Virtual desktops. Workstations. Printers and copiers. Supplies. Mobility. Gadgets and accessories. Lifestyle, gaming, servers, storage, power management, 3D printing, networking, wired and wireless, software-defined network, network security, data backup and protection, big data, hyper-converged infrastructure, software CAD and graphics, software enterprise solutions, commercial digital display, IP surveillance, POS solutions, AIDC solutions, document imaging, collaboration solutions, cloud computing, containers and microservices, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence and robot process automation, data center solutions and services, managed services, everything as a service, subscription, training and education, agility. The way to survive, rebound, and thrive in the new digital economy is to bend, pivot, change, and adapt to the changing times. We will be relentless to look for ways to anticipate the needs of our customers through our portfolio, infrastructure, services, and people. With the demands of the new normal, we have embraced digital technologies and online platforms for improved collaboration, enhanced customer service, and business continuity. We put greater emphasis on the well-being of our people by strictly observing and implementing health protocols. While some things may have changed due to the pandemic, our commitment to deliver greatness and serve as technology enabler remains the same. Our workplaces will be an important venue for collaboration. Technology availability, delivery of services, and business continuity. Reach. We will explore possibilities to make technologies accessible to their intended audiences. By partnering with IT retailers, online channels, corporate partners, system integrators, born in the cloud businesses, ISVs, mobility and specialty stores, and many more. Leadership. We will continue to lead in the availability of ICT solutions. We will embrace digital revolution and convergence because the true measure of our success is not summarized in the awards we have received, but in the way we have transformed businesses and individuals. Great products, great people, great solutions. Partner with us. We are VST ECS Philippines Incorporated, your link to technology.
Thank you, and thank you, Sir Jimmy. We actually announced our partnership with Alibaba Cloud last March, just this year. Moving on, please welcome Allen Go, our country manager for the Philippines, Alibaba Cloud Intelligence, for the executive address and overview of Alibaba Cloud business. With over 10 years experience at the forefront of the ICT and cloud industry in Southeast Asia and Greater China markets, Alan has been fortunate enough to bring extensive experience in cloud transformation and a keen understanding of how vertical industries can embrace the digital era and drive business innovation with the power of digital technology. Good morning, Alan. Please go ahead.
Hey, hello. Thanks, Jimmy. And also thanks the VSTECS team for organizing this great event. And also looking to the past, looking to the past year, we already see some good things from the market. Yeah, although the full, Philippine market is still under the COVID-19 status, right? But we also see some resilient factors from the market, such as in the past year, a lot of the cloud and also the AI and also the data analytics demand from the market, especially from the fintech, from the retail, and also from the digital media, and also even from the government. They already start to brace the new technology and also adopt this kind of the new technologies and also some new business innovations into their business. And looking into the past years, Alibaba Cloud development and its growth in the Philippines, we also had reached a very great and also fast growth in the past year. Just to be honest, last year, Alibaba Cloud, especially from the public cloud perspective, we got more than 100% growth during last year. And also, I believe within this year, we also will have a very fast and also rapid growth within this year with our further and also the coming big investments in the Philippines. Today, our main topic is about gearing up for the digital transformation. Yeah, but mentioned about the digital transformation actually is not only for the technical, evolution, such as you can adopt some cloud technology, you can adopt some data analytics technologies in your ICT or in your environment to deploy. Yeah, but sometimes the digital transformation is a very big topic and also with a very large scope. It includes the technical business innovation and also the organization chart, right? So today this is really the right time and also a good time to talk about the digital transformation with Alibaba Cloud. Because sometimes Alibaba Cloud we do not own as a cloud infrastructure service. Since Alibaba Group, we already built a very large business scope in the Southeast Asia and also Greater China, including the Alibaba Cloud, including the Lazada, including Alipay, including some other local e-wallets, which Alibaba Group and also on the financial investment. Alibaba Cloud, we do not offer the technical solutions for our customer or our partners, but we also offer some business best practice to some partners and also to some customers. Yeah, today, working together with VSTECS, we believe that within this year, Alibaba Cloud and also, we do can offer some valuable things, valuable solutions, and also valuable business best practice into the market. And also with VSTECS, not only in the Alibaba Cloud, including other Alibaba groups, just like eco business such as Alipay, such as some retail and also e-commerce business, we can build some just like point or joint solutions for our clients in the market, not only from the technical side, but also from the business innovation side, just like to support our partners and also our customers to reach their digital transformation target in the market. And also, I also send best wishes to the full Philippine people. And under this current situation, including the vaccine and also including the government the measures, the full country is just like the get back into the normal is sooner or later. So we also hope that everyone can stay safe and also just like to to get some valuable information and also valuable sharing from our today's event. And okay, so stay safe and also just like to thanks again for the VSTCS team. Okay, yeah.
The world is about to change. Are you ready for what lies ahead? Because we are going full throttle into a new digital norm, where it becomes the pulse of all future businesses, the lifeline of every economy, brains of cities, and heartbeat of enterprises. This pulse will unlock new modes and empower new ideas and innovation. Our heritage has already kept us ahead of what's next, even when the world paused. We never stopped. We never gave up. We went fast forward, ahead into the future, and became the digital metamorphosis that went beyond borders. The pulse of digital economy will elevate. The pulse of new business will accelerate. The pulse of new industry models will ascend. Together, we will co-create the new world, because we are the pulse of digitalization.
Thank you. So let's continue again to all our participants or attendees this morning. Please feel free to send us your questions. We have with us this morning our Assistant Manager for Technology and Product Solutions Group, Justin Rivera. And we are also joined by the Regional Solutions Architect, Alibaba Cloud Intelligence, Nico Ripolio, and Hannah De Vera from Alibaba Cloud Intelligence. The partner manager is also with us today, and Ms. Mayra Valenzuela, who heads our data technology group, where Alibaba Cloud is part of her portfolio, and Chris Salvador, our product manager for Alibaba. Again, please feel free to send us your questions. From the speech of Sir Alan earlier, there definitely are a lot of endless or opportunities for us to utilize Alibaba Cloud solutions. Let me continue with our first speaker. Our first speaker will talk about Alibaba Cloud overview, content delivery network, and hybrid backup recovery. This will be presented to us by Justin Rivera, our Assistant Manager, Technology and Product Solutions Group of VSTECS. Justin is trained as a solutions engineer, and he manages a team of product solutions engineers assisting our channel partners and end users in the digital transformation strategies and initiatives on various aspects of technology. He comes with more than 13 years solid experience in designing and implementing databases, Linux virtualization, cloud computing solutions, infrastructure, high availability architecture, business continuity, and cyber security. Please feel free to send us your questions using the Q&A window. All right, Justin, you may proceed to share your screen when you are ready. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for giving us the time. So I know you're all busy and you chose to spend your morning with us. So for this morning, I'll talk about the cloud overview and first going through what the milestone of Alibaba Group has become in the from 1999. Jack Ma was the founder, including with the 18 founding members of Alibaba Group. So Alibaba.com is just some sort of consumer to consumer type of business back then. So it's something like offering the goods from China to the international market. So a bit of trivia. Back in 1999, Jack Ma was thinking of a name for the company, and during that time he thought of using Alibaba because if you go to the streets, talk to different nationalities, chances are they know the story about Alibaba and the 40 thieves, right? So and he thought of that name because there's already a recall on what Alibaba means, and it aligns to the mission of Alibaba to become a gateway to small and medium-sized businesses to open up their let's say open sesame to the market. Okay, so this one is back in 1999, and by 2003, 2003, they spun up into a Taobao.com. So Taobao is actually a online shopping site, but it's more of a consumer to consumer as well. And back then, so they don't have a payment method to securely provide payment for the consumers doing C2C. So that's why in 2004 they launched Alipay. So Alipay is actually a mobile and online payment platform wherein it established a trust system between the buyers and the sellers, wherein they have a third party wherein it's Alipay that can service the payment scheme for when they do transaction. And then later on in 2017, so there's a company that was also created. It's called Alimama. So Alimama is actually an advertising and monetizing platform. It's Alibaba's advertising arm, wherein they provide advertisements using the platform, targeted advertisements, wherein let's say you're a middle-aged man or into a sporting gear. So most probably the ads that you will be seeing are more on this side, right? And then there's Tmall. So Tmall is a business to consumer online retail. It's more of a somehow an upscale version of Taobao.com, wherein you can see luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Couch, and there's a somehow an online store for those luxury brands. And then back in 2009, so this was the birth of Alibaba Cloud. So Alibaba Cloud is somehow the backbone of the entire Alibaba group. So it's actually the foundation in terms of the technologies running on these different kinds of companies under Alibaba Group. So why did I say that? So previously, before, all of these companies would have their own silos of compute resources, software, server, and what have you. So in 2009, so they consolidated into one compute resource running on the cloud or Alibaba Cloud. And then by 2010, so this is AliExpress. It's also a online retail for international buyers. So for those who are buying outside of China, so you can go to AliExpress and uh, book or add to cart your orders. And then, as you can see, as the company goes bigger, it's adding more related businesses to its group. So in 2013, Kai Now is also a logistics company who takes care of the shipping of all the orders from the different Alibaba group. And then they also branch out into something like a browser, UC browser, delivering content via the internet. And then Youku is some form of online streaming platform similar to YouTube. So probably you might be familiar with YouTube. So Youku is a streaming platform as well for videos, and DingTalk is a collaboration tool wherein we can compare it with messaging collaboration tools, wherein you can message, create groups, group chats, and all that. And of course, you're familiar with Lazada. They have presence here in the Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. And in 2018, they also branched out to provide something like Fresh Hippo or for grocery and retail chain. And then there's also a Eleme. It's a food delivery service. So Eleme is a Chinese word for "Are you hungry?" Okay, so I mentioned about on the previous slide that Alibaba Cloud powers the Alibaba Group digital economy. So everything from the retail business to the consumer side to the media and entertainment, all of these are running on the platform of Alibaba Cloud. So we're actually the backbone of the technology providing all of these services to be able to make our systems running seamlessly and running all the time. Okay, and providing all these services. Okay, so to prove how powerful the cloud, Alibaba Cloud is, so we can just take a look on the Global Shopping Festival. So you might be familiar with the term 1111. So you've seen it in the commercials, you probably heard it in the radio or even popping up in your browser about the 1111 sale. So this is actually an annual event wherein Alibaba is doing a massive sale on the different platforms like what we use now in Lazada. So the gross merchandise value of back in 2019 is around 38.4 billion in USD. So comparing it with the three closest sales like Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and Thanksgiving. So it's actually considered a huge number. So having said this, in terms of the scale, this is in terms of the number of orders per second. So it's around 544,000 per second. So that's actually massive. And in terms of the petabytes of data, so it's around 970 petabytes. And during this time, there's zero downtime. So we want to ensure that all the orders will be successful during that day or that time of day. And we provide those capabilities because we do have some high availability redundancy built into the system. And it's also largest human machine collaboration. So we have 9.04 billion personalized recommendation generated by AI. So I mentioned about Alimama before. So it uses AI and big data analytics to be able to provide you recommendations on what needs to be, what can be, what you can buy out of that sale. So the number of orders are processed through voice commands. So it's not just clicking on a particular product and adding it to cart. So even voice commands, we also support that on the 1111 sale. And in terms of packages, so it's being supported by AI to package those orders and real-time translations. So since it's globally, so chances are you would encounter it in a different language, but we support language translation during that time using the AI capabilities as well. And in terms of words and translated. So this is how powerful the Alibaba Cloud shown in the Global Shopping Festival. So this was mentioned by Sir Jimmy earlier. So we're number one in China. So and what's interesting is also we're number one in APAC. So outside of China, so covering including the Philippines, so we're number one in terms of the market share back in 2019. So this was a study done by IDC and tracking the number of market share in terms of the public cloud offering. And then for the worldwide cloud market share, so we're actually leapfrog the other company, to be placed at top three. So we're just behind the two main cloud providers like AWS and Azure. So we are number 4 now in terms of market share. So what's interesting about also this slide is the growth rate of Alibaba. So Alibaba is actually a fastest growing company and fastest growing cloud provider, positioning itself as number 3 worldwide. So in terms of the global infrastructure, we do have 23 cloud regions, meaning these are the different locations outside from China. We also have locations from the US, from the Europe, Asia Pacific in Sydney, and APAC, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Jakarta, and of course Japan and other parts of the world. So this is an important number. So 23 Alibaba Cloud regions, meaning you can run your workloads anywhere in the world. And it's under those regions, we do have the concept of availability zones, meaning availability zones is some sort of redundancy. So in one data center, you probably have 3 availability zones. So these are separate data centers. They have separate power, they have the separate cooling, and separate everything, the hardware and all those stacks inside the data center. And what's interesting as well is the number of CDN nodes. So I have a separate slide talking about the CDN nodes or content delivery network. So it's around 2,800 plus content delivery nodes. So what it does is more of caching the data outside, let's say from your origin site. And then we're present in 70 plus countries. So all of our data centers, they have physical security. So that's a given. So you cannot just enter the data center by your own. And all these data centers as well have yung PUE rating, or power usage effectiveness. So it's actually rated as 1.0. So that's actually the highest in terms of PUE, or power usage effectiveness. Okay, so let me deep dive, or let's have an overview of the different cloud offerings of Alibaba. So you would see here we have CDN. So I position this as a different pillars in terms of the offering. So we have CDN, we have DevOps for those who are using, let's say, some form of Terraform, containers, Ansible to do their development and deploying lightweight applications on those platforms. So we do support that one. We also support governance, wherein in terms of security, so delegation of resources like resource access management, resource directory, and so on and so forth. And security is also a number 1 concern for Alibaba. So as mentioned, we have the physical security, but we do offer a bunch of security because security is our number 1 top concern. So it's not enough to keep the lights on, but also protect your resources. So we do have a bunch of security solutions as well. So I'll talk about some of these security offerings later on. And compute is something that we're all familiar of when you talk about cloud. It's the ECS instance, or Elastic Compute Service. So think of it as a virtual machine on top of a hardware residing on the cloud. So under the compute, so we do have other services as well. Like if you're doing GPU type of servers, or you want to deploy GPU servers within the server. So you can also do that in terms of the compute resource. And then there's also some sort of, let's say, serverless, so function compute. So it's also part of the offering under the compute platform. And for storage, so the offering that is most common would be the OSS, or Objects Storage Service. So this is for the unstructured data. So anything unstructured, you put it on some form of bucket inside the OSS. Okay, and this is running on our own proprietary file system. So we call it Pangu, but it's more commonly called now as Apsara Distributed File System 2.0. So the distributed nature of it, wherein we can put different files across different regions and across different availability zones. So it's being distributed on across different data centers as well. So for the network, so we do have different solutions as well. For networking, let's say you want to connect to the cloud, you can use a VPN access for that. Or let's say you want to accelerate access coming from, let's say, from US going to China or vice versa, China going to the US. So we have something like global acceleration, separating resources in terms of virtual private clouds. So that's also part of the network portfolio. So we can separate a VPC for, let's say, one workload in the department and another VPC for another department, something like that. So, and in terms of elastic IP, so this could be treated as your public IPs, wherein those virtual machines or those ECS instances will have access to the public internet. So this is the in a zoom out picture of what we're offering. So we're offering a stable, secure, and cost-effective cloud services. So looking at the highlights, so in terms of IaaS, the ECS instance is a world-leading single availability zone and multi-availability zone SLA. So this is our SLA guarantee, wherein if Alibaba will not be able to meet those guarantees, so Alibaba will be providing service credits to our customers. So that's how confident we are on the platform that it will be can serve up to 99.975% SLA for single availability zone and higher SLA for the multiple instance availability zone. And there's also a concept of dedicated hosts. So if you want to have your own server wherein you don't want to share it with other customers, or we call it noisy neighbor, wherein sometimes if you share those workload, those other customers might be running a huge query on the database, for example, and hogging all the resources. So you can have something like a dedicated host to be able to run those workloads on their own without sharing those resources with other customers. And then there's also HBR. So I'll talk about HBR on much details later on, but it's actually a cloud native backup solution to be able to back up to the cloud. And for our database products, so we support different kinds of databases. May it be a relational database, a NoSQL database, or a distributed database as well. So we have this product called PolarDB. So it's a cloud-native database that's compatible with MySQL, Postgre, and even compatible with Oracle. So if you want to move your workloads to the cloud and maximize and ensure compatibility with those mentioned databases, so you can do so with the use of PolarDB. And then there's also database backup as a service. So it's also part of the database portfolio. And in terms of management, so cloud management is also there, DBMS or database management system. So just to highlight a bit on PolarDB, so we can support up to 88 cores. So if you have mission critical workloads, ensuring having to have this amount of cores to serve your workloads, so you can also run PolarDB. And in terms of memory capacity, so we support 710 gigabytes of memory. And in terms of the how many tables and how many objects you can put inside your PolarDB, so it's around 100 TB. So it's fast scaling. So with a few clicks of a button, you can just provision additional nodes or additional database instance, and ensuring that you can scale out from your environment if the need arises. So it also integrates with something like auto scaling. So let's say you're doing a sale on 11/11. So you don't necessarily predict how much workload, but if the time comes that you need resources, you can scale out to be able to provide the resources needed for those workloads such as the 11/11 sale. Okay, so as mentioned, it's compatible with MySQL, Postgre, and Oracle. So if you want to move workloads coming from, let's say, from the on-premise running this types of database, you want to migrate it into Alibaba Cloud. So PolarDB is there. So in terms of storage highlight, so uh, the service is called OSS, or Object Storage Service. So it's a secure, cost-effective, and highly durable cloud storage provided by Alibaba Cloud. So it's in terms of durability, so it's rated as 12 nines. So since we are move distributing copies, extra copies of your data across multiple availability zones and multiple regions if needed. So we can use this as, let's say, for things like archiving, so things like doing backup to the cloud. So you can use an OSS to store those backup. And if you're providing, let's say, content from, let's say, images, videos, or any unstructured object, so OSS would be the solution for that one. So in terms of availability as well, so we provide in 99.995 service availability for the OSS. Okay, so for network, so I briefly touched network a while ago, but this is how the high level picture. So inside Alibaba Cloud, you have your VPCs, wherein it's separate, let's say, a separate private cloud from another VPC. And inside that VPC, you would have something like a network address translation, your load balancer, server load balancer, and your elastic IPs. And then if you want to connect multiple VPCs, you would have some form of cloud enterprise network, or connecting, let's say, cross-border acceleration. You would have something like Global Accelerator, or GA. And then for your users who want to connect to the cloud, so they can connect via Express Connect. So this is some back to source lease line to be able to connect your VPCs. Or for remote users connecting from their laptops, from homes, from remote office, so they can use something like a VPN or a smart access gateway. Okay, so for the network highlights, so we have 9 regions in China, so including 37 availability zones. We have 12 regions worldwide. That's representing 24 availability zones across different regions, and 2 in Hong Kong. So the setup time is very much minimum. So if you want to connect your data centers from different regions, so you can do it in the dashboard. So it's easy to set up. So as mentioned a while ago, so global acceleration. So we support cross-border acceleration. So if you need to serve users coming from different parts of the world, so global acceleration would be the solution for that one. Okay, for the security, so Alibaba offers an end-to-end security in terms of operations, business, application data, identity management, networking, and hot security. So I wanted to highlight in terms of security, it's actually a shared responsibility model. So some of the things are being taken care of by Alibaba, and some of the things are being taken care of by the customer. So having said that, if it's a customer responsibility, we're providing you a bunch of solutions. Let's say you want to protect your host from any attacks in terms of malware. So Server Guard would be the solution to be able to help you protect from malwares. If you want to protect from a DDoS attack, so built into our technology, we have something like anti-DDoS as a very basic protection for DDoS attack. So DDoS is denial of service. So if there's an attacker utilizing a zombie of different computers and want to target your website, so it will become inaccessible. So anti-DDoS would be helpful to stop those kinds of attacks. And of course, let's say we want to protect our applications from tampering, from crawlers and all that. So we do have a web application firewall as well. So I just highlighted these two, but we do have a bunch of products that are capable to mitigate your security risk. Okay, so what's also important, I noticed on the call, we do have customers in the telco, we do have customers on airline industry, we do have customers in the banking sector, customers in the healthcare sector. So I would highlight probably for the healthcare customers, HIPAA. So this is a regulatory compliance that healthcare customers would need to comply. And for those I mentioned about an airline, so where in the Philippines we have our own version of this, the DPA, Data Privacy Act. But for GDPR, so if you're servicing customers running in or customers booking flights going to the Europe, so you have to comply on the GDPR requirements. So, and we do have some a bunch of other regulatory compliance certification. So let's say for banking sector, so PCI DSS is something that's already was also part of our offering, or it's already part of the global security compliance that we are um, from day one we can support. Okay, so if you're part of this kinds of customers that needs to comply with all of this, so it's already we can comply on those regulatory compliance. So in terms of innovation, so it's actually a continuous innovation from 2009, back when we started Alibaba Cloud. This represents the 10-year continuous innovation of Alibaba Cloud. So we have actually now it's around 200 plus products, and a number of features have been introduced from time to time. So we are investing a lot in terms of R&D to be able to provide better solutions for our customers. Okay, so that's about it for the overview. So I'll spend a bit of time in terms of content delivery network and what is it in terms of the product offering. So I cover a bunch of topics already, but let's deep dive a bit on the content delivery network. So what are the challenges that our customers like you would face on the day-to-day basis? So, and I'll talk about what is CDN, why Alibaba CDN, and some of the use cases or success stories that we have in the region. So this is the primary scenarios or main reasons in terms of internet content distribution. Primary is in terms of download. So if you're offering content online, so you want to be able to download software, want to be able to download updates for a game platform, or you're offering mobile applications in terms of APKs. So there's a challenge in terms of traffic guarantee. So let's say you release a new update. So this is a hot update, and everyone wants to download those updates. So how do you guarantee that you will be able to serve your customers during this peak time? And then in terms of video and audio, so I think during the lockdown, a lot of us, probably my mom is, if she would be able to hear this, no, so she's locked into one of the streaming applications, and actually my sister would be locked into another streaming application doing videos of her own, creating content. So how do we guarantee the smooth playback of these videos and audios? So let's say chances are if you're streaming it at 1080p, you will encounter buffering. So even if you're subscribed to a huge bandwidth from the telco, but if it's coming from another source, there's some latencies to be able to stream those content. And then for websites, so if you're providing e-commerce for your customers, news feeds, and government services for your websites or social media and enterprise websites, you need to have some form of platform stability and reliability. So you have to be able to access in real time, and the loading times would be fast or quick. So having said that, so I listed down here the challenges of internet content distribution. So first one would be poor internet connection between different ISPs. So this is not just on the Philippines per se, but in terms of global ISPs. So different ISPs needs to talk together, and there are different network hubs to be able to get the right data when you're searching for it from the internet. And users now are widely and cross-carrier distributed over long distances with long latencies. So imagine a user coming from the US connecting to a website in the Philippines. So he needs to pass through a different hubs, network hubs, to be able to reach that content. And Origin can handle traffic bursts with cannot handle traffic bursts with poor elastic scalability. So in this one, we introduced the concept of Origin, wherein Origin is the main web server. So let's say it's located in the Philippines. So the origin server is the one in Philippines. So once we deploy it, we cannot easily scale out in terms of the providing resource to all our users. And cost of bandwidth due to, let's say, being centrally deployed and not elastic. And there's also a challenge in terms of TCP. So TCP is a network protocol. So with pure transmission under weak network. And there's also security in terms of DNS hijacking and content tampering. So all of these challenge contribute to, let's say, reduction in terms of conversion rate. So let's say you're on the e-commerce website and you're about to check out whatever products you selected, you added to the cart. So if ever you have encountered a slow loading time, delay on the page, chances are your order would not succeed. So if ever a competitor would offer a similar item on their e-commerce website or application, so chances are you would be going to that other competitor. So it actually contributes to the conversion rate reduction. And in terms of paid page views, somehow companies would subscribe to some form of advertisements. So the lesser the number of views, the lesser in terms of the amount you get from those advertisements. And customer satisfaction. So we're living in a world wherein everything is instant. So we don't want to be able to experience long loading time, buffering, and all that. So what is Alibaba CDN? So Alibaba CDN is a content deliveries network wherein it uses a network of servers in geographically diverse dispersed location. So meaning it's located to different parts of the region to make sure that your users get to access content from what is nearby to them or from a nearby data center. So content is also replicated, ensuring the reliability of those data or content that you want to access. So it's suitable for website acceleration, web and audio on demand, live streaming, download for, let's say, APKs, API acceleration, enterprise office security and distribution scenarios. So let's take a look on the global level CDN service provider of Alibaba. So let's say I have multiple users. Let's say from a small company. So I just build my applications and web server in the Philippines, and somehow the value has reached a global scale. So meaning other users coming from different parts of the world would now want to access those websites or application. So chances are, if they don't use CDN, so they will have some bottlenecks in terms of the network. So a particular example would be, let's say, I know of a company wherein when the let's say top part of the management goes outside of the Philippines, he wants to test the website of that particular company, and they notice that the loading time outside the Philippines takes a while. So why is that? So the primary answer would be since the world is huge and you have to go through different cables across the ocean to be able to reach the Philippines. So and with CDN, so we eliminate those challenges because we're actually distributing multiple. We call this as POP or point of presence, CDN POP, wherein if ever you encounter you access content from the US, so you'll be connected to the US CDN. So think of CDN as a caching mechanism. So as a layman's term explanation, so you have a laptop, so you provide memory to the laptop to provide caching. So CDN also works that way. So we're caching content coming from from the origin going to the CDN nodes. So one of the highlights in terms of Alibaba CDN is in terms of bandwidth. So we have around 100 terabits per second bandwidth, and we have six in terms of six regions, around 2,800. So of course that's excluding Antarctica, but all the 6 regions we have CDN presence. So and in terms of CDN, so we have this solution. It's a one-stop acceleration solution, including scenarios for basic acceleration, security acceleration, and dynamic acceleration. So let's just focus on basic acceleration for now. So let's say you're doing a website. You have your HTML, you have your JavaScripts, you have your images. So all of those would be loaded to the screen of a user. So we want to be able to ensure that we provide low latencies, improving the content loading times, provide high bandwidth. So this is just for basic acceleration for a website. But if you're, let's say, putting in content in HD videos, having a high bandwidth would also matter. And redundancy. So we also eliminate single point of failure. So let's say CDN somewhere in China goes down. So another CDN that's nearest to the customer accessing the website would be able to take over. So it's scalable, so ensures great performance as a number of users grow. So we can distribute the workloads across different CDN nodes and POPs. So it's global. So we provide great experiences regardless of the location of the customer. So it's also effective in the sense that we provide pay as you grow billing methods for flexibility of your business. So this is the high level architecture of CDN. So I know this is somehow a busy slide, but just to further explain, so I have a mobile device or a laptop. Then I want to, let's say, I want to access a website. So the first thing that CDN will do is talk to the local DNS, and the local DNS would now identify based on scheduling, the location, the IP address, and let's say the latency. It will now identify which CDN nodes would be the closest to the customer. So once it identifies, let's say this is a Beijing CDN, so it will get the resources out of that Beijing SCN. So in instances that it's not yet available in the Beijing SCN, so it will look for the level 2 and so on and so forth. And if it doesn't reach that other CDNs, it will now get from the original server or origin server. So once it gets the information. So the origin server will now process a write back wherein it will now put in the content from the origin server going to the caching system wherein for the next time that the customer would now access those content, it will be faster than compared with before that it has to get from the origin. Okay, so why Alibaba CDN? So this would be the slide wherein we'll talk about on the capabilities of CDN. So first would be sufficient global resource, accurate scheduling system, intelligent transmission link, efficient caching strategy, reliable safety protection, and flexible edge script. So I'll drill down on this particular slides on the succeeding slides. So in terms of sufficient global resources, so this is just for mainland China. So all the ISPs connected are connected in the from a CDN perspective. All the carriers in the mainland China are connected. So that covers around 34 Chinese provinces and their jurisdiction cities. So each of this point of presence supports 10 gigabits optical NIC. And in terms of capacity, so we have 40 TB to 1.5 petabytes of storage capacity. And in terms of operational bandwidth, so 40 gigabits to 200 gigabits. So that's how fast our global networks are working. That's on China side. But outside of China, so we have around 500 CDNs and 230, 2,300 CDNs in mainland China. So the first I want to highlight would be intelligence transmission link. So we have a bunch of optimization. For first one would be protocol optimization. So Alibaba has greatly improved the performance of protocol by stacking with the protocol stack by adjusting certain connection congestions. No, so in terms of algorithm, so they have decided designed it to be able to provide optimization. So optimization in terms of protocol, optimization in terms of transmission, and optimization in terms of persistent connection pooling. So meaning we provide persistency to be able to support yung problems with TCP connection. And another one would be efficient caching strategy. So I mentioned about being some sort of memory cache. So even though it's distributed in nature, so we have some policy caching to be able to intelligently put the content that is closer to the customer. And reliable, secure features. So things like hot linking, anti-hot linking, so anti-DNS hijacking, HTTP transmission. So the transmission would be encrypted using HTTPS or SSL. So origin protection. So we're hiding the IP address of the origin. So this is another layer of defense. Origin reliability. So in times that, let's say, there's a downtime on the origin site, so we can use the available CDN nodes as long as the CDN nodes would have those content. So another core capability would be flexible edge script. So this is more of the programmability of our CDN. So we can support programmability and configuration of the CDN using the edge scripts. Okay, so in terms of scenarios, so if you're providing website services for your customers, so CDN would be definitely a good choice. So for static web pages, for application files like HTML, Flash, CSS, JavaScript, and what have you, so we can use CDN to accelerate the access to those websites. For application, software, and game downloads, so definitely we can use CDN for this one for any large file downloads. Let's say around 20 megabytes of content. So we can choose the CDN for large file downloads. And for video on demand, so for, let's say, you want to provide videos for let's say trainings or product videos or advertisements or even on demand of a particular series or that you want to watch. So video on demand acceleration would be something that is also beneficial for users of CDN. And lastly would be live streaming acceleration. So if you want to be able to track in real time how many users are watching a particular live streaming or a particular broadcast, ensuring that you have a seamless and there's no buffer in terms of the live streaming acceleration. So you can also use CDN for that one. So okay, actually, that's my presentation for CDN. So let me pause for a while and before I proceed with hybrid backup recovery service. So let me just drink some water. Okay, so for hybrid backup recovery service or simply HBR, so this is an enterprise class backup recovery as a service and disaster recovery as a service. So we call it hybrid because it works for on-premise and for the cloud. So here's the agenda. So I'll talk about why we need to use backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service, and I'll cover a brief introduction of HBR, and of course I'll wrap up with the discussion of the successful use cases. Okay, so why backup as a service and disaster as a service? So this is a study that was done by measuring the cost of data center outage. So I know it's a bit old by January 2016, but it's very much relevant today in terms of measuring the cost of data center outage. So on average, they have found out that a cost of unplanned downtime or outage per minute is nearly 9,000 USD per incident. So it's a lot. So in terms of, let's say, cost to the brand, cost of downtime in terms of being able to provide the services that you're offering, cost of, let's say, mitigation of particular downtime. So that contributes a lot in terms of the downtime. So what we're saying is unplanned downtime is actually an enemy of different customers or across all customers. So we have to ensure that we're keeping the lights on and all our services are running 100%. So there's also a study done by National Archives and or that's what that was recorded in the National Archives and Records Administration in the US. So they mentioned about 93% of companies lost their data center for 10 days. So imagine 10 days the operations are impacted. So due to a disaster, let's say natural disaster or fire, earthquake, a disruption to the network, or what have you, they filed for bankruptcy within the year when they encountered this unplanned downtime for 10 days. And then they're also saying that 43% of these companies suffering from catastrophic data loss never reopened. So that's actually a lot in terms of the numbers. So the top security trends or the top data center threats would be server fault, let's say outage in terms of the power, internal or external attacks. So from insider threats, from multiple threat actors coming from a cybersecurity perspective, operational faults, maybe a human error, a fire, natural disaster, earthquake, storage failure, and viruses or malware. So this is why it's very much crucial for enterprises to have their business up and running all the time. So how do they do it in terms of protecting their production data center? So they do it. They what they do is they probably build another data center. So not just one, but using a 3DC approach or a three data center approach. But that approach might be very expensive in terms of investment, capital expenditures, building a data center, having those software installed, buying those hardware. So what we're seeing right now is companies would have some form of disaster recovery on the cloud. So not just one, but probably a multi cloud or multi availability zone or multi data center approach, wherein let's say their production workload, so it's running, let's say during business hours, and something happens, so they can just shift to the other data center located to the cloud. And then worst comes to worst, if that data center also would have some issues, so they have a tertiary site to be able to provide the services. So as a safety net, if ever worst comes to worst. And the beauty about cloud backup and disaster recovery solution would be having a one-click deployment. So we're eliminating the complexity coming from building different data centers and all the data center stack. And in terms of flexibility as well, so that's another advantage wherein we can rehearse anytime. So we call it DR drills, or let's say we just simulate a DR scenario wherein we shift to the DR site without necessarily informing the users that they're actually using the DR site now, not the production site. So we can do it in terms of the cloud, in the cloud backup and disaster recovery solution. So comparing the advantages, comparing with on-premise and hybrid cloud. So probably if you're very much skilled on your data center, it's okay. But if you have limited staff on board, so it might be too complicated to build your own backup and recovery site. So, but with hybrid cloud, so we're simplifying and making it easy for the users to be able to manage everything from one console. And then in terms of extensibility, so on-premise data protection might be a long turnaround time with all these different puzzles that you have to integrate together. Well, for hybrid cloud, so it's very much flexible and scalable. So if you need additional resources, just let's say spun up another instance on the cloud. So it will be automatically be scalable. And then from time to service or time to market, for example. So it might take weeks or months to be able to provide the services. But for hybrid cloud, so with just single clicks of a button, so you'll be able to have in minutes a working backup environment already. So in terms of cost, so we're eliminating primarily the investment on the capital expenditures. And in terms of the total cost of ownership, so uh, we're actually making it lower in terms of total cost of ownership by around 70%. And the long preparation in terms of DR drills or rehearsal. So it takes a while for doing it on the on-premise, while for the hybrid cloud data protections, it's being done on demand anytime. Okay, so for the introduction, so what is hybrid backup and recovery? So this is a unified cloud backup platform servicing from, let's say, data storing from the Alibaba cloud or even from on-premise data center. So it's very much efficient in terms of the cost savings. So we're eliminating putting up a separate backup instance or backup infrastructure, and just, let's say, run the service, and you will have a working backup infrastructure on the cloud. So efficient. So I have a separate slide for this one, but efficiency is more of, let's say, how do you store your data on the cloud. So we utilize a technique called deduplication, wherein we're limiting the number of copies, the duplicate copies that we are storing in on the cloud or the backup platform. So I'll talk about that later on. So in terms of encryption, so I'll talk about this as well. So this is very much important for financial institution, government, telco, and different kinds of customers would require some form of encryption. So we utilize industry standard AES 256 encryption to be able to protect our data from leakages. And then reliable, so similar to our object storage service a while ago that I have discussed. So it's also reliable in the sense that we are ensuring 12 nines of data durability. So multiple copies of data are being spread across the cloud backup platform. And to ensure the integrity of the data, so we have some form of data integrity screening and fully managed in the sense that you can just use your console and it alerts you if there, let's say, failed backup jobs, or there's let's say you're here hitting the threshold, or something goes wrong with your backup. So it provides you with alerts and warnings. Okay, so being a unified backup platform, we can protect workloads that are running natively on the cloud. So workloads such as ECS, yung ECS instances natin. So enterprise, yung at Elastic Cloud service natin. Elastic Compute Service, I mean, and yung SQL Server. So databases running on SQL Server can also be backed up using this unified cloud backup platform. SAP HANA. So for customers using in-memory database like SAP HANA, so we can also protect SAP HANA workloads. For NAS and network appliance for storage, we can also protect NAS and OSS, yung mga data natin running on the OSS buckets or stored in OSS. And cross-region DR, so we can also protect. Okay, so and backup to the cloud from on-premise going to the cloud, so we can also do protection for these types of workload. And next would be for VM backup and migration. So I do acknowledge that a lot of customers are running VMware right now. It's actually one of the standard in terms of virtualization. So, but if they want to protect those virtual machines running on VMware, so we can also do it using VMware backup and migration. Okay, so this is actually a deep dive of what I discussed on the previous slide. But let's say you have a customer data center running on premise, and you have different files, VMware, VMDKs, you have your SQL servers running relational databases. So we are we can back it up using the Alibaba HBR. So before the data would be sent to the Alibaba cloud, we're actually deduping it on from the source. So meaning from here, the data that would need to be transmitted to the Alibaba cloud is actually much lesser. So ensuring that we're providing better performance in terms of the transmission. So once it's here, so it's the duplicate copies will now be eliminated. So it will be also compressed and provided with some form of encryption. So take note of these supported data types. So let's say we have ECS, we have NAS, OSS, local files, NAS files, SQL Server, and VMware VMs. So yung mga VMDKs natin. So images from VMware, so can be also a supported data type. So let me just spend a bit of time talking about the duplication. So probably you've heard about the duplication before, but what's different about our deduplication? It's actually a variable length deduplication, wherein it tracks for any changes. So from, let's say, from the start of the file or on the end of the file in terms of blocks, so we can identify the modification that was done to that particular file. So the only change block will now be appended to or be backed up to the HBR. So the duplication is technique wherein we're eliminating extra copies of what's being stored in our storage or in our HBR. Okay, so normally the typical ratio is around 30 is to 1. So what does it mean, 30 is to 1? So instead of storing 30 copies, I'm just storing 1 copies. So it also depends on the duplication ratio on your environment. So if you have a lot of clone VMs, a lot of multiple copies of data being stored, let's say doing backup regularly, full backup regularly. So this would be the typical ratio would go higher. But if the idea is quite unique, so probably you would have a lesser deduplication ratio. So another, in terms of simplification, so we're providing policy-based backup strategy and auto operations. So we support a bunch of backup strategies. Let's say you want to do full backup, incremental, differential, lag backup policies. So you can combine all of these backup strategies and are based on your RTO and RPO, so recovery point objective and recovery time objective. So if you want to be able to protect data and restore quickly, so probably you might go with full backup. And what's also supported is incremental forever for files, NAS, and OSS. So this is some sort of synthetic full wherein from day one, so you create a backup and then day to day, so you will have a incremental forever for files. And for monitoring, so I mentioned this a while ago, so it can be alerted, let's say via SMS or email um, from any alerts that you want to receive. Let's say there's a failed backup job, or let's say a completed backup job, so you can be alerted. So, and let's say yung job history natin and error reports can also be extracted from this monitoring. Okay, so these are some of the use case file backup to the cloud. So we can install agents coming from your directories and your NAS, and those agents will now talk to Alibaba HBR and copy those data going to the backup vault. So as mentioned a while ago, this is secure and reliable. So we're securing in terms of encryption, data at rest, and data in transmission. So data at rest, anything that's residing on our backup vault will now be protected with AES 256 transmission. So any data that you're transmitting from your local data center going to the cloud will be encrypted using HTTP transmission. So chances of sniffers or hijackers sniffing to that network will now be eliminated, or we are mitigating those risks in terms of the transmission. And this also represents 12 nines of data reliability. For large scale NAS, so if you're, let's say, storing multiple files in, let's say, millions of files, thousands of files, you can also back it up using the HBR. So one particular company that's also very good in terms of providing large-scale NAS would be EMC Isilon. So we have native integration with the Isilon APIs to be able to provide fast file transfer for, let's say, any changes you've done on the NAS part. So connecting to the API will now know that these are the changes. So even though you're storing millions of files on those Isilon, you change one or two files, so we'll be able to know quickly in terms of the what was changed. And we support global indexing and global deduplication as well to provide synthetic full backup incremental forever. Okay, so also in terms of VMware, so we have something called agentless backup and disaster recovery. So we don't have to install agents on the VMware clusters. Instead, we're talking to some yung sa vSphere API for data protection. So to be able to move our data coming from those VMware clusters going to the HBR. Okay, and yeah, so we also have seen improvements in terms of cost effectiveness because, let's say, you don't have to build another data center, you don't have to pay other licenses to be able to back up those agents or those VMware workloads. Okay, so if the customer would now want to do some lifting and shifting to the cloud, so we also do that in terms of the offering. So this one can very much lift and shift a number of virtual machines at one point in time. No? So you can simultaneously, let's say, pull 10 virtual machines from the on-premise going to the cloud and running those workloads on, let's say, ECS instances, or let's say not just on Alibaba. Let's say they want to run those backups on their local data center. That's also supported in that sense, wherein we can use VMware agentless backup to be able to restore back those virtual machines on their on-premise data center. Okay, so for those who are already on the cloud, so HBR is something that can be also considered, wherein for our ECS instances, we want to be able to protect them as well for any, let's say, human errors, someone deleting a file on that ECS, or someone issuing a drop command on the database on the SQL server, or changing something on the SAP HANA server. So ECS backup is also one of the use case for HBR. And for SAP HANA, so we're actually proud to say that we're the first SAP certified cloud backup service in APAC. So that's actually one of the milestones in terms of Alibaba Cloud. So we understand that customers running SAP HANA, these are mission critical workloads as well. So in terms of providing high performance, so the backup speed is around 500 megabits per second. The storage speed is less, so that's a given when you're doing restoration. So 260 megabits per second. So this effectively reduces the recovery time objective once you encountered particular downtime. So SAP HANA is actually one of the very good use case for using HBR. So this one I mentioned a while ago. So it can be deployed as agentless for NAS and OSS. So for our OSS buckets, so we have tight integration with Alibaba OSS as well. And for things like cross-region disaster recovery, so if I've been reiterating about the concept of availability zones. So sometimes your workloads would just reside on one availability zones and different, let's say, from a different region. But you have to want to have, let's say, a higher level of redundancy. So the use case might be with build or let's say putting your shadow ECS on another region. So let's say something goes wrong on a wide scale network interruption on that region, you still have services up and running on the other region. So near zero or near seconds RPO and minutes of RTO. Okay, so I won't go through in detail for the Apsara stack. So I think Sir Miko would be covering this on the latter session. But Apsara stack is in-house cloud, on-premise cloud, wherein we can also protect those workloads coming from an Apsara stack. And then for customers who don't want to, let's say, install anything from their, let's say, computing environments, they don't want to install software for HBR. We have this HBR backup appliance. So this is how it looks like and supports, let's say, from a data source perspective, we have in terms of number of max fast, max VMs, the limit in terms of the backup storage. So think of it as a gateway for moving your data going to the cloud. So this is how it looks on a deployment. So the HBR will be the one talking to the Alibaba HBR cloud service to be able to back up your data going to the cloud. And similarly for VMware agentless, so HBR would be the gateway. So some successful cases. So this is actually a company in China wherein they have multiple branches from from their branch in Shanghai and Jiangsu branch, wherein they have 10 branches, around 100 terabytes of data, and the daily incremental is around 2 TB. So what they want is to be able to back up this daily incremental. So what they did is they back up those videos and images to through a public network, around 200 megabits per second transmission or bandwidth. So they back it up with HBR, which is whatever closest to them. So let's say for the customer in Shanghai, so they back it up to the Shanghai region and availability zones East China. And for similarly for Jiangsu, so they're backing up with the availability zone in Jiangsu. Okay, so in terms of output, they were able to lower down the cost. So and they also be able to put data more in terms of retention. So they have a 30-day retention policy. So it supported their requirement for that one. And there's also a large retailer using SAP also in China. So they have they're on the cloud with 200 ECS instances, and 15 of those instances are running SAP HANA workloads. So in terms of the data, so they have around 50 terabytes and daily and 7 terabytes increments. So the current pain point is actually it takes a while for them to do the backup. So it takes around 8 hours to be able to back up those data. But once they move to HBR, they've seen a drastic improvement of around 2.5 hours in terms of backup. So that represents cost saving because let's say they're saving a lot in terms of um, bandwidth, and also they're saving a lot in terms of the deduplication. So they are able to provide 4 times retention as well. And overall, the cost savings is around 62% TCO reduction. And lastly would be the digital studio with large scale NAS backup. So they're storing a lot of content on those NAS workloads. So around 150 terabytes that needs to be backed up. So some of those data are also utilizing deduplication technology. So they have achieved 20:1 deduplication ratio. So imagine the cost savings that they achieve once they use the HBR. So in summary, so Alibaba Cloud offers a lot in terms of a best of breed technology. So I just highlighted two of this in this session. So we have the CDN, the Content Delivery Network, for acceleration. We have the HBR for protecting your important assets like data and ensuring your business are up and running with, let's say, something goes wrong. Okay, with this, thank you so much for your attention and have a good day.
Thank you, Justin. We have received a number of questions, and I'd like to acknowledge Sir Franklin. We have Sir Michael, Sir Chito, Sir Edison, Sir Aji, Sir Randy, and Brian, and Sir Bong. Um, Nico, if you could please help us address the questions. And Justine, we have two questions submitted on the chat window, and then we also have a number of unanswered questions in the Q&A widget. If you could please help us address them. I just would like to highlight that VSTECS, as a distributor, we actually work hand in hand with your preferred channel partner or solution provider. So we do not sell direct, but we work hand in hand with our channel partner. So whoever is your preferred solution provider or channel partner, we are more than willing to engage with them. All right. Let me just mention some of the questions submitted on the Q&A window. We have from Sir Edison. One of the major concerns using cloud as a backup platform is submarine cable breaks. How does Alibaba Cloud handle this? And this was addressed by Miko. According to Miko, Alibaba Cloud use redundant network providers for its global network. They also use intelligent routing and forwarding. Routing information is learned and distributed automatically so that the overall network route can be converged quickly. And Sir AJ Brillantes asked, do you support all NAS storage brands for the backup to cloud? Justin said yes, CIFS and SMB protocols are supported. He added that let us know what specific brand, and we can check for its compatibility. Sir Randy also asked, what will be the process on transferring big data like in terabytes, for example, to Ali Cloud? Miko mentioned that Justin, just mentioned in his presentation the SAP HANA backup use case. HBR can go up to a petabyte scale. And Sergito also asked, can this solution be used to archive CCTV footages? And Miko replied that yes, in fact, the media industry is one of the biggest users of HBR. And Sir Edwin Jimenez, is Alibaba offering an automatic cloud failover? Sir Allen said yes. All right, let's continue with our presentation. Our second speaker will talk about hybrid cloud and VMware on Alibaba Cloud, and this will be presented by Miko Ripolio. Miko is the regional solutions architect for Alibaba Cloud Intelligence, and as a solutions architect, he engages with customers and partners in supporting them along their digital transformation journey, leveraging Alibaba Cloud product solutions and best practices. Prior to joining Alibaba Cloud, he was the head of cloud infrastructure planning, architecture, and strategy of a major telco company in the Philippines, where he led and sponsored the overall infrastructure and digital transformation of the organization. Go ahead, Miko.
So good morning again, everyone. Thank you, Justine, for the quick introduction and some deep dives on our products earlier. So now we'll be discussing the hybrid cloud journey of typical customers in the Philippines. And Alibaba Cloud does provide capabilities or offerings that will enable you to do the full hybrid cloud suite to enable your business. So In that context, so that ideally, when we talk about hybrid cloud, there's a lot of definitions to a hybrid cloud. But basically, the thing that we'll focus here is hybridity in the sense of you're able to have an on-premises data center with all the capabilities that an on-prem data center gives you, like latency, governance, data sovereignty, and everything, and the ability to be able to properly utilize your public cloud capabilities as well. So with that, I'll introduce you to Zstack, Alibaba Cloud's hybrid IaaS offering, and also a little bit introduction to Apsara Stack and Apsara Stack Agility in the later slides. So, all right. So first, we'll have the Zstack overview. So Zstack is the IaaS component. It is a software-only component that Alibaba Cloud offers. So being a software-only component means that when you do or wanted to have an on-premises data center, Zstack is a software-only deployment, meaning you can have your own set of hardware, given that it's Alibaba Cloud certified, and be able to run Zstack from there. So if you don't have your own hardware, definitely Alibaba Cloud and the entire VCS ecosystem can also offer the certified hardware that you can run Zstack on. So in running Zstack, as I mentioned, this I think is the most important thing about Zstack. It is IaaS. All right. So with that, it gives you the capability to run cloud services like compute, object storage, server load balancer, and pretty much the entire IaaS stack that you can see in Alibaba Cloud. And you can start, and the beauty of Zstack is you can start small, right? So you can start as small as 3 nodes. And basically from that 3 nodes, you already have everything that you need for an entire data center to run. So that includes servers, switches, even your virtual networking, and even virtualization already comes with the Zstack platform. So you can start small, but you can also scale out into thousands of servers anytime you needed more capacity. So the entire Zstack is actually on a very high level composed of a cloud management platform or a CMP. And from there, it manages your virtual infrastructure, virtual networks, and of course, including storage virtualization as well. Definitely on the physical side of things, you still have your own servers, switches, and optional storage. And later we'll discuss some certain scenarios or deployment options for the Zstack. All right, so Zstack is widely used in the China market. So definitely we started out in the main China region. So we already have more than 1,000 customers that are using Zstack on premises, whether that's a use case of just on-prem, having your own private cloud capability there, or a hybrid setup or scenario. The current maximum node that we have is 2,000 plus nodes. So that's more than, that's 2,000 plus servers basically for one customer. And we have more than 100 plus industries covered by the Zstack use case. So speaking of industries, we have a couple mentions here from the government. Definitely one of the concerns for government is mainly on governance and pretty much data sovereignty as well. And regulations, as well as public security. The rest pretty much those who embrace having their own private cloud in your control from the industries of manufacturing, education, healthcare, internet, and finance. So we've mentioned a few of the customers here, but basically we've scaled out to a lot of customers over the few years that Zstack has been available in the market. For those who are using VMware, so later we'll discuss Alibaba Cloud VMware solution as well. But basically, this somehow sums up the differentiation between having your own VMware virtual environments versus having your own Zstack private cloud environment. So installation, it's simple because Zstack is a one package download. or installation. I mean, compared to VMware, so you have your vCenter, you have your vSphere, and for those who are familiar with VMware tech stack, so you have your vRealize suite. So that includes vRealize orchestration, vRealize automation, a lot of the things that you need to actually install separately. Zstack gives you that capability to just have this seamless or simple installation. Uh, so again, Zstack is actually built for cloud. So you can actually scale from a minimum of 3 nodes to 1,000 nodes. So I think that's one of the main differentiators here. Hypervisor supported, we do support any KVM and VMware. So we can do manage the entire life cycle of your VMware environments. So why we did this is that typically customers who do get to be able to use Zstack, some of them have their own VMware environments, right? And at the end of the day, we don't want you to manage this cloud infrastructure, a virtual environment in your Zstack separately. So Zstack can actually manage the entire life cycle of your VMware environment for you. So that makes life for operations a little bit easier, because definitely you're just managing your entire infrastructure in just one UI or one component. All right, so Zstack is built on the 4S standard, so it's simple, scalable, strong, and smart. Zstack is also, I think I want to highlight, what I want to highlight here is that Zstack has an open source code on its base, basically. And pretty much with that, we've really made our Zstack product more open to the ecosystem. In fact, we have provided complete RESTful APIs as well. So it's like also having your own cloud, right? With all of the API integrations you can do with your private cloud. So simple, scalable, strong, and smart. All right. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a one-click download. A typical 30-minute installation. This is for small node deployments. All right. So I just want to put that expectation out there. And as I've mentioned, you can actually reuse your existing hardware because Zstack is software only. If you have like excess servers in your data center, and you wanted to have that hybrid cloud story or hybrid cloud capability, you can actually maximize the asset life cycle or the asset life of your servers, and run Zstack from there. Scalable, so again, it can scale up to 1,000 servers. Strong, it is a true seamless hybrid cloud, so meaning you can actually leverage most of the services on premises and the public cloud services that Alibaba Cloud provides you. And of course, smart. So we have intelligent O&M. And mostly the way you manage Zstack is on a GUI. So again, in terms of learning curve and enablement, it's not super difficult, or it will not take a lot of time for you guys to be able to operate Zstack, because if you're familiar on using cloud, for example, if your organization is already familiar using AWS or even Alibaba Cloud, it's gonna be simpler for you to manage Zstack rather than having your own separate, for example, VMware environment, which you need specialized VMware skills to actually manage as well. So that's one of the advantages of having Zstack in your infrastructure, in your environment. Again, it's easy to deploy and easy to maintain. In fact, you can set up as little as one host for IPOC environment. And typically it takes just a couple of days to have your entire Zstack platform running. So we also include VM migration, service migrations. Even if you have like a brownfield scenario in your environment. So if you have like existing cloud or virtual infrastructure from KVM or VMware, you can actually migrate it out and seamlessly place your workloads in Zstack. All right, so In terms of the components, so again, we have our cloud management platform. So that manages the entire relationship between your own Zstack environment, VMware, and Alibaba Cloud. So you have your, again, this gives you a picture of an entire hybrid cloud story from your on-premises, VMware, and even bursting workloads to Alibaba Cloud, right? So we have the PaaS services and the operations and orchestration and automation capabilities. So as Justin mentioned, we do support tools like Ansible, Terraform, and the like. So if you're already using those tools, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to adopt cloud technologies and even Zstack. Typical with any cloud, I'd like to highlight this. On-demand delivery of service resources. Again, on demand, so we have the capability to do load balancing, scale out, scale in. And again, integration is a little bit easier because we provide you with RESTful APIs for you to do integrations. Upgrading your Z-Stack. So for example, you started with a C-Stack deployment. In the long term, definitely we do have regular product updates. New features are coming in. So the typical question we get from customers is that, how do we upgrade? And the simple answer really is it's zero downtime upgrade of your Zstack environment. So it's a seamless upgrade from a Zstack point of view. So again, it's a full seamless upgrade and zero downtime for you to be able to upgrade your Zstack, right? So we actually have this few customers who started their journey with version 2.6 and older, and now we're actually running 3.1. So it's a seamless upgrade for customers, definitely. There. So now we give you the overview of the modules in Zstack. So there's a lot of things here. So I'd like to highlight a few of the items here, so that we're not going to go through a lot of the things that you see in the slides. But basically, typical with any cloud platforms, you have your web UI where you do all of your transactions via the web portal that you get. You deploy your entire life cycle there, create, delete, snapshot, everything from the web UI. You also have your command line interface, definitely. And developer support for your, we have Java SDKs and Python SDKs available. And for integration, we have RESTful APIs available in our developer guide for Zstack. For the cloud resource service, so we have, like, again, the entire IaaS stack. We support that for Zstack. So that includes the VM instance, network, elastic IPs if needed, security groups, or these are like your virtual firewalls as well. Of course, different types of storage. So from block, file to object storage. Typical VM lifecycle capabilities like snapshot, clone, backup. And if you are using Zstack for a multi-organization use case, or even as a cloud provider mismo, right? You can also do billing, right? So from the Zstack platform itself, you can actually separate billing per, depending on your organization, whether that's per BU or per cost center or whatnot. But definitely we do support billing for that one as well. Monitoring is actually included, definitely. Once you run things, you need to monitor things as well. Cloud platform management. This is for the CMP part of things. So as I've mentioned earlier, we try to make life easier in such a way that we understand that customers coming in for Zstack sometimes are coming in with a brownfield environment, meaning you have your own VMware, you have your own KVM environments, right? And whether the business case is to run this all environments together or consolidate everything into Zstack, we provide that VM live migration capability. And again, basically, we also, as I mentioned, support VMware. We can manage your vCenter from the Zstack console itself. And Of course, infrastructure supporting it are virtualization. We support NKVM, VMware. We can also do bare metal or migration from bare metal to virtual or physical to virtual. We call it P2V. Distributed storage. We also support local storage. You'll see that later in the deployment scenarios or the deployment options that you have. Pangu. Aliyun Pangu is the highly scalable distributed file storage of Alibaba Cloud, and your virtual networking. So again, you can actually do the quote unquote VPC network level configurations in Zstack. It's a little bit difficult in other virtualized environments because you need a lot of components to be able to do that. With Zstack, you already have the capability inherently on day one. And definitely, you'll also have the capability to use hybrid cloud services from Alibaba, from your ECS, sorry, excuse me, your storage volumes or file system, security group in the public cloud, VPC, EIP, VPN, and even Express Connect if you have like a direct connection from your data center to Alibaba Cloud. So again, this paints a picture of the entire capability of Zstack on the IaaS capability. A very texty slide, but let me mention a few things here. Standard version capabilities, this includes already hot migration. So again, moving VMs from one virtual infrastructure to the other or to Zstack. You also have the capability to do snapshots. So I think Justin was able to mention that introduction in the introduction earlier. Of course, elastic expansion. If you have special use cases that needs GPU, so again, this is more of a hardware dependent capability, but Zstack also supports this GPU acceleration as well. On the network side of things, I've mentioned load balancer. You can create your own VPC in the cloud, dedicated networking environment. Again, the use case for VPC is really a multi-tenant setup. Again, whether you're using your public cloud as a large enterprise with multiple business units, or as a provider selling or providing private cloud services to your customers or even subsidiaries, right? You can actually, this is a perfect solution for multi-tenancy. Storage, we'll go through this later, but definitely you can actually still use your legacy, if I may, legacy FC storage that you have right now, or your SAN storage that you have. Again, I've mentioned metering and billing, so you can actually do chargeback and showback and in a multi-tenant environment. And from here, as I mentioned, we do have backup services, native. And in fact, I think the thing that I wanted to highlight here is the enterprise management. Again, it's a way for you to properly utilize Zstack or your private cloud infrastructure for our multi BU capability. Like again, if you have, depending on your business portfolio or structure, you can actually create separate accounts, separate environments for your business units, subsidiaries, or whatnot. So basically, this gives you an entire enterprise management suite to use your Zstack in a multi-tenant way. And of course, vCenter management. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you have your own VMware environment, that can actually be managed by Zstack itself. All right, so product advantages. I think I've somehow able to paint a picture of the advantages of Zstack earlier. So again, ease of use, high efficiency, and Alibaba Cloud ecology, meaning you can actually use this together in conjunction with Alibaba Cloud services. Differentiation. So compared to actually having your own VMware environment, right? So again, it's really virtualization versus having an entire cloud platform at your fingertips. And so from there, you'll have the capability on day one to actually have a cloud, right? Not just a virtualized environment, um, for you to be able to use. So I think that's one of the key differentiators of having Zstack within your portfolio. A little bit deep dive on the computing capabilities. So we will have a deep dive on some capabilities for compute, storage, and networking. So again, the entire lifecycle management from creation, data operations, and even up to the actual deletion of your VMs. Leaving snapshot, meaning while running, you can actually, while your VMs are running, you can actually do snapshots on it. Live migrations, console. So definitely high availability as well. I'd like to highlight this. You can actually create your own VM images. So in fact, if you wanted to have like a marketplace, for example, of the IaaS services that you wanted to have, you can actually create images from based on your applications, or well, pretty much like an IaaS product, right? So you can actually create this VM images, modify them, and deploy them on a later stage. We have GPU capabilities I've mentioned earlier, and FC. Again, you can support your legacy storage requirements. In terms of network management, again, if you're already familiar with how VPCs work, is that you can actually isolate tenants, or depending on your landing zone design, you can actually have multiple VPs, multiple users, BUs, or whatnot in one single cloud environment. So you can actually isolate them and have your own governance rules within each of the accounts that you provision. For storage, again, we do support local storage. We have NFS, Ceph, and the typical storage features that we have. You have plain provisioning, over allocation, and again, FC. So we have this thing, we have a storage adapter to be able to connect to your SAN devices, to your other storage devices within your data center. So that makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to, migrate workloads, or even use or maximize your existing hardware for the Zstack private cloud. Yeah, backup as a service. So definitely this is native inclusion. So definitely you need to do backup, as Justin highlighted in the previous presentation. So this is actually included on top of the snapshot capability that you have for your VMs. Right. So everything that I mentioned earlier are already included in the Zstack deployment. So I mean, less headaches for you guys, because you don't need to buy or acquire separate solutions and integrate them into one cloud. So Zstack gives you that ability to have that entire suite in just one package, right? So for you customers who already have your VMware environments, so again, we can actually connect your vCenter to Zstack, and from there, discover the entire data center, the clusters, vSwitches, hosts, and everything, and actually manage the entire life cycle from there. Again, from creation, data operations, and even deletion of the VMs from your vCenter environment. Of course, once you have your Zstack on-prem deployed, the next thing to do is either to deploy greenfield workloads, meaning new workloads in the Zstack environment, or again, a use case would be to actually consolidate workloads from your existing virtual environment to your private cloud. So we do have this virtual to virtual migration. So from VMware to Zstack, that is supported. From any KVM to Zstack, this is supported online. So meaning you can transfer workloads seamlessly. And you can actually sorry, excuse me, you can actually set up QoS as well. And we do support most of the mainstream OS versions. So Windows, the typical distributions of Linux. So those are all supported inherently. Right. So you can actually see here, right? There's like zone configurations later. In the customer use case, customer stories, you can actually see why you can also configure zones. Meaning zones is like an availability zone, right? You have your data center in one geographic area and another data center in one geographic area, and you can configure them into zones. So typical, it's like really having your public cloud capability on premises. We will not do demo, by the way, but I have not removed this in the slides. The reason for that is actually in longer customer sessions that we do actually have a demo. We do run a demo as well. So my point here being, you can actually install the entire Z stack in just minutes. And I highlighted that earlier. And again, in longer customer conversations, we do have this POC. By the way, we can do POCs if you guys are interested. Again, it's as simple as deploying a single image in one host. And yeah, we'd be happy to really help you with this part. Right. So simple steps, you can deploy it in minutes. All right. So Z-Stack deployment scenario. So again, I hope you were able to get the value that Z-Stack actually is very flexible. So from maximizing your current data center hardware, your current assets, we can actually have a deployment depending on a specific customer scenario. So typical for a local storage deployment. So this is a scenario where you use your compute node storage for the VM storage as well, right? But again, the cons here is that since you're using the storage of your compute nodes, you cannot actually do live VM migration, because if this VM, you need to transfer it or migrate it from here to here, your storage volumes actually is still remaining or still here in this compute node. And that's actually the con of this kind of deployment. So, but this is typical for testing scenarios, POC environments, something that you just need to test, have something in minutes and just quickly test your applications and then kill it off. The other one is actually to use your existing NAS or SAN storage. So again, you have a centralized SAN here, and you'd be able to connect your compute nodes via FC. So whether it's 8 GB, 16 GB FC, you can actually connect your Z-Stack to that FC SAN or central storage. So well, definitely the pros of that is, since you now have your common storage pool, you can do live VM migrations, right? The con for that is, again, typically relatively high cost. Actually, that's debatable, but hard to scale out. This is the thing that's really the con in this kind of deployment, because you know the economics of a SAN storage system, right? And the way that you do scale out is a little bit difficult. And basically, that gives way to the next kind of deployment, which is via a distributed storage deployment, right? So in a distributed storage deployment, it's like having your SDS or software-defined storage in your environment. And by the way, there is, as I mentioned earlier, there is ZStack Ceph. That's actually your storage node. So you can actually scale your distributed storage array horizontally, right? So unlike the way you scale out a NAS system, right, where you actually scale it vertically. So meaning you add more storage nodes. Sorry, not storage nodes. Storage disks, And if the controller actually exceeds the number or maximum disks that you get, you need to buy another controller and then add more disks, right? For distributed storage management, it's not the case because your storage capacity is actually pooled based on the number of nodes that you have. So this is how cloud environments work actually. So in the back end, if you look at how the public clouds actually deploy their data center, right? This is actually what you'll typically see in public clouds, because from here, again, the capacity is pooled. So the more storage nodes you add, the capacity grows with the number of storage nodes. So again, it's a balance between performance and reliability. And since you have a common pool capacity, you can still do VM live migrations. And compute and storage scales out independently, meaning if one day your cloud, your Zstack cloud is lacking compute resources, you need more vCPUs and memory, you'll just need to add compute nodes. And if your storage needs expansion, you just add storage nodes. This is more ideal in medium to large scale deployments. The last one is actually hyperconverged or HCI. So if you guys are familiar with how HCI works, it's basically running your compute and storage nodes in one physical hardware, right? And there's this HCI software that manages everything from scheduling, capacity management, and the entire life cycle for HCI. This is actually also recommended as well because aside from the capabilities or the features that you have for distributed storage, you'll also consume less rack space, definitely. Because again, you're running your compute and your storage in just one node, right? So you have multiple scenarios or options to deploy Zstack. Maybe if some of you are going to be asking, so what's the typical scenario or what's the typical starting point? So definitely we go in with VST to you guys, and the very first thing is to actually do a discovery session, right? Setting goals or business objectives, and actually, asking you guys if, hey, do you want to reuse your existing SAN? Do you want to have a complete greenfield Zstack private cloud deployment and whatnot? So basically, that's how it really starts out. But again, the main point there being you can actually maximize the asset life of your existing data center assets. We have a couple of Zstack customer story. So we have this telco in Australia that's actually using Zstack. So the main thing that they have deployed is actually they have multiple data centers in different geographic locations. So they have one in Melbourne, Sydney, and Adelaide. So the main challenge that they have is actually how to reuse, again, maximize the existing life asset of their hardware, because they have like excess capacity on their data center and they wanted to use or maximize that capacity. And virtual to virtual migrations. So definitely, this is more of a disaster recovery or high availability scenario where they can actually migrate or transfer workloads from one data center to the other. And so they actually have a Zstack solution today in these 3 data centers. It is hybridly connected to Alibaba Cloud, and they have their own VMware setup. So Zstack takes over the VMware environment for them. So again, you don't need to manage your separate vCenter. You can actually you can actually manage the entire life cycle from the Zstack console itself. And again, being able to unify their cloud infrastructure, they were able to do savings in investment, and they have a developer team actually using some DevOps tooling, orchestration tooling, and so they're able to still use their existing tool sets through API integration. Right. So that's for telco. industry. Another one is ele.me. This is in mainland China. This is like, if I'm not mistaken, this is something like a food panda in China. So it's food delivery online to offline vendor or customer in mainland China. So they have, so as I mentioned earlier, right, in the Zstack configuration, you can actually create zones, typical like a public cloud, right? So that's what LA.me did. So they have their Shanghai zone 1 and zone 2. They have 2 data centers in Shanghai and 2 data centers in Beijing. So the challenge there is massive user access. Again, it's like Food Panda in mainland China. So the thing is, given especially during the pandemic season, there has really been an increase in the traffic in the application in their platforms, and so the main challenge there is if they retain their traditional data centers, you know, ordering hardware, ordering servers, ordering storage, ordering network components, it takes a lot of time, especially given also the restrictions in logistics. So again, this gives you pretty much an idea on like the capability of a public private cloud deployment, where actually their entire data center setup also takes advantage of Alibaba Cloud Public Cloud, of the Alibaba Public Cloud services to scale. That's it for Zstack. So you have pretty much a high level idea of what Zstack can offer. As I mentioned earlier, no, we also have Zstack gives you the IaaS capability, but we also have the entire IaaS PaaS capability. So in the form of Apsara Stack. Apsara Stack in a nutshell is, so if you guys are familiar with AWS, it's like the AWS outposts of Alibaba Cloud. So Apsara Stack gives you the entire solution set or capability set that you see in Alibaba Public Cloud deployed into on-premises, right? So that's the main use case or the main feature of Apsara Stack. So we have 2 flavors of the Apsara Stack. We have the agility for smaller deployments, and the Apsara Stack Enterprise for bigger deployments and service providers. So like you can see here, large enterprise, carrier, and even government institutions, right? So again, the difference is that for Zstack, you have your entire IaaS capability: compute, storage, networking, load balancing, VPC, VPN. For Apsara Stack Agility, you have your IaaS services, the things I mentioned earlier. And if you're also using the PaaS services, like for example, you're already using the managed database like RDS, right? This gives you the ability to run that fully managed database service, RDS, in your on-premises data center. So that's pretty much the main use case for Apsara Stack. And the thing here for Apsara Stack is, again, this is like your Alibaba Cloud on-prem. This gives you no flexibility in terms of hardware. So we will be providing our own hardware for you to run Apsara Stack. So the entire hybrid story of Alibaba Cloud gives you 3 options: the C Stack and the 2 flavors of the Apsara Stack. So depending on your actually depending on your requirements, we can have something tailor fit specific to your needs or business challenges. All right, and so with that, that ends our Apsara Stack and Zstack presentation. The reason we included VMware in this hybrid cloud journey is that we realized in a couple of sessions that, especially here in the Philippines, a lot of customers, a lot of enterprises are actually existing customers of VMware as well, right? And in the advent of the pandemic, right, there are actually challenges and restrictions in terms of, for example, your business grew during the pandemic. Logistic problems in terms of lead time in hardware delivery, of course, manpower, mobility restrictions and everything. So how can you be able to scale out your VMware environment seamlessly, without the dependency on the hardware part of things, right? So um, here we introduce to you Alibaba Cloud VMware Solution, or ACVS. So ACVS is a collaboration internationally between Alibaba Cloud and VMware. So definitely this is an international collaboration. And this gives you the ability to run VMware SDDC in Alibaba Cloud. So the entire VMware component runs on our signature X-Dragon computing platform. So this is, when you go to Alibaba Cloud, this is actually the entire server architecture that runs the entire Alibaba Cloud, Alibaba public cloud. It's the same thing that you use to run your VMware solution. Again, how to purchase? So you just go to the Alibaba Cloud Marketplace, simple as that. Configure your SDDC environment, put in your the entire configuration for vSphere, and then that's it, right? So your VMware cloud, or your VMware on Alibaba Cloud, is gonna be ready in just a few clicks. So again, we've mentioned transform cloud consumption in the initial slide. The reason for that is, again, maintaining or creating your own VMware environment on premises typically is CapEx heavy. So, sorry guys, give me a few minutes. I just need to plug my laptop. Sorry, there you go. Again, having or creating your own VMware environment is CapEx heavy. So again, you need to invest on servers, storage, switches. You have to have your own data center, or a co-located or co-hosted data center. So you can, with that, we can give you the flexibility to actually run your VMware environment in the cloud, right? So transforming your cost from CapEx to OpEx. So you pay per use. There's a monthly or annual subscription for you to run VMware on Alibaba Cloud. So again, if you're using VMware today, there's no change in architecture. It's the same VMware you're running in Alibaba Cloud. And moving your VMs from your on-prem data center to cloud is now easier. Again, same VMware stack that you have in your data center can be deployed in Alibaba Cloud ACVS. All right, so now you just focus on running your business, right? And of course, that will give you a hybrid cloud experience with VMware. So on top of that, we still have a few developments in the pipeline for the entire Alibaba ACVS product. So today, what's available is this entire solution architecture, where you have your vSphere, vCenter, and NSX that you can hybridly connect to your VMware environment on premises. And you can actually integrate it with the Alibaba Cloud native services. So later you'll see some scenarios where you would want to do this in your ACVS environment. Soon in the pipeline, you will have vSAN already available. In a couple of months, we might have an announcement for some of the upgrades to the product, right? So here's how it looks like to deploy VMware on Alibaba Cloud. So you just go to the console, go to Marketplace, search for VMware, and choose your plan. So again, you can have a monthly subscription or an annual subscription for your VMware on Alibaba Cloud. And then just follow your typical deployment in the cloud. Just follow all of the steps there, all of the questions, and then deploy. Easy as that. As I mentioned in the pipeline, we have a few more things coming in. So currently we have an entry-level VMware package. So again, that includes an X-Dragon server that has 96 core or 96 vCPUs and 384 GB storage. And you can actually use local SSDs or cloud disks in Alibaba Cloud. soon, in the future announcements, we'll be having a few more flavors of the VMware ACVS solution. So I think the main highlight here is in the future iterations of the product, we'll already have the vSAN Enterprise included. So for customers who are already using vSAN, VMware's vSAN infrastructure, so this gives you the ability to still use the same vSAN and in fact do a vSAN stretch cluster across. So if you're familiar with vSAN stretch cluster is you're actually extending your shared or common resource pool across multiple data center sites. And that gives you, again, the flexibility to migrate workloads from one cloud to the other or from one data center to the other. This time, your data center is in the public cloud, in Alibaba Cloud. We'll also have HCX integrated in the future release. So this is hybrid cloud exchange. So this is the application mobility and cloud migration solution of VMware. And a couple of few more items in the pipeline, including your vMotion for the enterprise BTC flavor. So again, developments are still in the pipeline, but definitely for those who need to scale out their VMware infrastructure immediately in just a couple clicks of a button, this actually is going to be the next probable step for you to scale out your VMware infrastructure. Well, as I mentioned, you have your inclusions in your current ACVS flavors. But then again, if you have as well other VMware services, like for example, VMware's Site Recovery Manager, your DR as a service solution, you also have your vRealize log insights for logging solutions of VMware and VROps, right? You can actually, if you have your own existing engagements with VMware, you can actually have this as a license only or purchase only option if you're going for the ACVS on Alibaba Cloud. Right, so use cases and scenarios, time check. So we have a couple of scenarios here. So definitely the number one use case for VMware or ACVS is, again, having your VMware environment in the public cloud. For you to do this, again, you just need to have an Express Connect, or this is like a direct connect from your data center to VMware to Alibaba Cloud, or even over the internet, right? So you have smart access gateways or VPN for you to be able to connect to Alibaba Cloud. So this gives you the capability to actually connect your vCenter on premises with the one on Alibaba Cloud, and vice versa. Cross-border VM farms. If some of you are actually operating businesses across multiple countries or multiple regions, you can actually leverage this through our Alibaba Cloud SEN or Cloud Enterprise Network. So this is our private backbone connecting all of your Alibaba Cloud regions, right? So when you do this, actually, that gives you all of your VMware farm can actually be managed together, right? So whether you have VMware on-prem and in public, on-prem and in public, on-prem and in public, in different countries or in different regions, you can actually manage them together in a unified manner through our SEN product or Cloud Enterprise Network. Another use case is actually virtual desktops. So if any of you are familiar or using VMware Horizon today, you can actually do this or run this in Alibaba Cloud. So again, instead of deploying your Horizon infrastructure in your data center, you needed to scale out your virtual desktop environments from multiple users, whether that's in different countries or just in the Philippines, and actually do that with a cross-border global accelerator product of Alibaba Cloud. So you can actually run VMware Horizon as well. Last is, I've mentioned you can actually enhance your capability of ACVS by deploying native Alibaba Cloud solutions as well. So I think Justine mentioned earlier that we do have a couple of security products as well, like anti-DDoS, web application firewall, and security center. So you can actually put that or integrate that in your overall architecture to further secure your environment. So actually, users from the internet might need to pass through our anti-DDoS, our WAF, prior to accessing your applications on VMware on Alibaba Cloud. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. I think there are a couple of questions we need to answer. So I'll turn you over, guys, back to Mach.
Thank you, Miko. We have and this has been an interesting discussion, and we have received a good number of questions. So let's keep the discussion going. If you could please, Miko, Justin, and Chris, share your contact details so that our participants will be able to reach out to you in case they have more questions. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So please just share your contact details on the chat window. At this point, before we ask Hannah to do the closing remarks, can we have a group photo, please? All right. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thumbs up. 1, 2. All right. Thank you. Hannah, go ahead. Please do the closing remarks. Hannah De Vera is the partner manager of Alibaba Cloud Intelligence from Alibaba Cloud Philippines.
Thank you, Sir Mao. So before we conclude the session, on behalf of Alibaba Cloud and VST ECS teams, we wish to thank you all for spending your half day joining us. So we're very glad to see so many customers listening in and also actively bringing up their questions in the chat. So VST ECS team, many thanks again for organizing this event for our customers. Justin and Miko, thank you both for delivering very informative presentations earlier. So I hope the sessions today were able to impart value to you in any way. Alibaba Cloud has over 200 products as well as general and industry solutions available. So CDN, HBR, private cloud, VMware on Alibaba Cloud, everything we talked about this morning, they're just one of the many offerings that we can definitely help you with. So as quickly shared earlier, we are a cloud service provider, yet we are not limited to the technical side of things. So we can definitely help you out with your business solutions, transformations, leveraging on Alibaba's wide ecosystem capabilities and best practices. So please fill out the feedback form after the session so we may understand how best we can help you later on. So Alibaba Cloud has been here in the Philippines and we are here for the Philippines. So Alibaba Cloud together with VST ECS and its channel partners, we are here to help you gear up for your successful digital transformation. So again, thank you again, everyone, and good morning, good noon. Thank you.
On behalf of VST ECS and Alibaba Cloud, maraming salamat. Again, feel free to reach out to our Alibaba team in case you have questions. Again, maraming salamat. Stay safe, everyone. Sa uulitin.